So first of all, thank you everybody for joining. It's been quite a while since we've had a shul-wide Zoom. We were doing regular shiurim, which many of you attended, for basically from March through August, just about. And we took a break from those just so we can come up for some air. And now school has started. Hopefully we'll resume those shiurim after Sukkot, after the holidays, after the Chagim. I want to actually first just talk for a moment. First, we're going to mute everybody. That's what we're going to be doing. So there's no feedback, okay? We're going to get to music and all that kind of good stuff soon. I just want to talk about Rosh Hashanah for a second. As you probably are aware, we have two locations for shul. One is going to be at the Gross's backyard, and one is going to be at the shul itself. If you want to know where you're davening and you can't wait until tomorrow, you're welcome to send me a chat, okay? And or a text or something like that, and I'll let you know. But if you wait till tomorrow, you will be getting an email from the shul that tells you where you will be davening. So that's number one. I know you're probably wondering about that and thinking about it. Obviously, all the davening is socially distanced, and you have to wear a mask, etc. You will get an aliyah, hopefully, although I didn't get the screens yet. They didn't come yet. They're supposed to have come yesterday. Just prepare, be prepared to, get an aliyah like you normally would get an aliyah on Rosh Hashanah. Unfortunately, there are no real ark openings because there's no ark. Although, at one of the minyanim, we have to borrow two Sifrei Torah for the, I don't know what you're saying right now, but we have to borrow two Sifrei Torah. I already have one and possibly a second one as well. Which we're borrowing, and one of them comes with an Aron Kodesh. So we actually could have an ark opening, but you would have to. Oh, yeah, that's a good thing to remember. Thanks, Myrna. Yeah, a couple of our Sifrei Torah at Myrna's house right now, and they need to make it back to the shul. At least one of them does before Rosh Hashanah. So maybe if you're wearing gloves, then we'll talk to Mark Hatchen to see whether or not ark openings are possible. But that's just as a side point. The bottom line is we're having two minyanim. Families will be sitting next to each other to enable more space for other people. And hopefully it'll be very, very nice. I'll be davening the first day at the shul and the second day at the grosses. And when I daven, I'll be Shachris and Musaf. And then the other day, Simi Hollander, who blows shofar for us, will daven. And Rabbi Mendel Myers will daven. And various people are reading Torah and blowing shofar. There's a big team involved, Baruch Hashem. Let's just daven that everybody make it to Rosh Hashanah without being exposed where they'll have to quarantine, because if one of those people has to back out, then Mark Hatchen will be able to show us his chazanas and what he's always wanted to do over here. He'll show us how quick a Rosh Hashanah davening can be. All right. In terms of the length of davening, there's no schlepping, there's not a lot of singing. We're going to move right along and should be 2.5, 3 hours max, I would say. Okay? Mincha and Marav are at shul on Rosh Hashanah for all the minyanim. So what's happening at the Clark and Wendy Gross home is only for the morning services. That's for Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur is different. We'll talk about that next week sometime. Okay. I want to begin the program, if you will, by showing you a video that I think is a very powerful video and really hopefully set the tone. Really, this is all about setting the tone for the high holidays. I want to say something that I said by WhatsApp today. I was very busy on the Westwood Kehilla WhatsApp chat today. So for some of you, you've already read this, but I want to share this with you. The first part's a little bit, disturbing, I think. The second part, I think, is super important. A number of years ago, a person came up to me. I won't even identify if the person was male or female. A person came up to me in shul and said, I just feel so uninspired. And my first initial reaction was, I wonder why this person feels uninspired. I mean, we just went through the Chagim. And you all know that the Chagim at Westwood Kehilla are super special. I think anybody goes out of town for the Chagim has to have an extremely extenuating circumstance to allow them to leave. Because basically they're saying, I'm not talking to Samuels, this year is different, okay? This year Rosh Hashanah is different. But basically they're saying that we, I don't want to say what they're saying. I don't think it won't be so polite, okay? So The Chagim are extraordinary and special, and it's really a tremendous opportunity to get close to each other, to be inspired, to feel connected to the holiday. And this particular person, I realized that they'd actually been out of town for the Chagim. They were out of town for Shoshana, they were out of town for Yom Kippur, maybe Sukkot, maybe they were in town, but they barely came to shul. And so I realized that the reason why that they felt disconnected and uninspired was because they didn't show up to anything. You can't not show up to anything and then complain that you're not inspired. The two don't go together. So I'm encouraged by everybody that's come tonight, because you're showing me that, you're showing each other, you're showing yourselves, you're part of a Kehilla. And although things are different now, and they are different, okay, so they're different, but let's roll with it and see how it goes. And B'ezrat Hashem, together the Chagim will continue to be a special time for us. We'll feel good about ourselves as a community. We'll feel good about our connection to each other and to Hashem. Yeah, it's going to be a little tougher this year, but taking responsibility for ourselves to make sure that we're inspired and connected, there's only one person that can take that responsibility for you, and that's yourself. So I think, though, tonight's Zoom meeting with Musical Inspiration is an opportunity to get a kickstart to the season. And so I want to thank you all for coming and joining us. And I want to express my gratitude, because it's very encouraging to see you all. I want to start off, like I just said, I'm going to share something. I'm going to share my screen.
You really have to go.
I'm going to mute everybody again. Some people just joined us. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I want to share a short video that was produced by a friend of mine. I shouldn't say produced by a friend of mine, but he. I'm just going to go ahead and chat somebody for a moment. It's very, very beautiful, and very, I think, also will give us some pause for to think and get into the spirit of the day, if you will. Okay. Okay, the singer for this particular, Olivia, I sent you a chat. If you get a chance to look at the chat, okay? The singer for this particular piece that's produced by Torah Live is Ari Goldwag. B'ezrat Hashem, he sings beautifully. He's a very dear friend of mine. B'ezrat Hashem, he will be singing with us, joining us at the banquet on October 25th. So that should be very, very nice and exciting. Before I go any further, I have a little presentation for everybody by Bracha. Okay? All right. You ready?
Hello.
Okay.
I have a Torah for Shoshana. So,
Can you speak up?
why do you use why is it apple and not honey to have a sweet ear, but why only just like the honey dipped in anything. That why does it have to be the apple? So if you cut open an apple like this, you see that in here, around the thing that looks like a star, it's 10 little dots.
Show it up. Hold it up close. Okay.
And which is the gematria of Yud. And then here there's 5 lines, which makes a star.
Show them
Here.
again. Lower. There you go. Okay.
And which is Yud. K, which is.
So it's a Yud and Hey.
It's a Yud and a Hey, and which also is part of Hashem's name. And
Can you
then.
look at the camera.
And then the Vav, it's not a gematria, is just a line, the line on the top, which every apple has. And then if you open any apple, it will all look like this. Any apple in the world. And then if you look really inside, there's a bunch of small dots, very small seeds. And so we have Yud and Hey and Vav, and there's 5 small seeds in there. Like not those big ones. 5 small seeds in there. It spells out Yud K Vav K, which is Hashem's name. And we want Hashem to give us a sweet year.
Beautiful. Shkoyach. Okay. Great job, Bracha. Okay, fantastic. That was a surprise addition to the program for tonight. Is Bracha's Dvar Torah. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. And now she's enjoying the apple. Are you eating Hashem's name? Are you making Hashem part of you? Oh, she's not eating the seeds. Okay. So she's making Hashem part of her. Okay. Okay, thank you, Olivia. All right, so what I want to share just a thought, just really a brief thought, and then we'll have Shmuel do some singing. And I last minute asked Olivia if she'd be okay with. I'm so honored that you joined us tonight. It would be so wonderful if you can share some words of inspiration to help us get ready for Rosh Hashanah. So I'm so grateful that you're on. It's wonderful to see you. I hope that I don't know what your plan is for Rosh Hashanah. Usually the Writers Guild is a major deal. I'm sure you have something going on. Oh yeah, I saw you're having a backyard in Hancock Park, right? Okay, but Mitzvah Hashem, the impact you'll make on the 200 will be worth much more than the thousands even that have come before them. So one of the mitzvot, obviously the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah, the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah, of course, is the blowing of the shofar. The blowing of the shofar. Now, fascinating idea is Gemara. The Gemara is really, it's a medrash actually. The medrash says, based on a pasuk, do you know how the Baal Tokeya, just after blowing the first set, so he makes a bracha, they say Lamanatzach 7 times, and he makes a bracha, actually 2 brachos, he makes a Shachiyanu as well, I think, and then he begins to blow shofar, and then they make 30 sounds. They make 30 sounds, and then the Baal Tokeya has to say something out loud, like a chazan, and it's like one of the hardest things to do, because you just made 30 kolos, you just blew 30 times. It's a lot, and then you have to project your voice, and you'll hear many Baalei Tokeya have a very hard time with it. And it's something along the lines of Ashreya Yodei Sirah Adai Shem V'yar Panecha Yalechon. It should be familiar. And what does it mean? Fortunate are the people who know Teruah, who know how to sound the shofar. And the Medrash asks an obvious question. What does it mean, fortunate are the people who know how to sound the shofar? Non-Jews also know how to sound the shofar. There's not a great chachma. The Gemara calls it a chachma. There is a certain amount of wisdom in blowing a shofar, right? But even children can blow a shofar. There's no kunz, as they say. It's not the biggest challenge in the world. It's a technical challenge. There's a bit of wisdom involved, but almost anybody can blow a shofar. So what does it mean that fortunate are the Jewish people who knows how to blow the shofar? So the Medrash answers, Shemakirin lefatot et boran b'trua. It means that they know how to, the literal translation is seduce. What it basically means is to convince their creator through the trua that by virtue, pun intended, of blowing the shofar, Hashem switches from kisei hadin, from a throne of judgment, and he goes through kisei shel rachamim. He's filled with rachmanis, he's filled with mercy, and he looks at us from a different perspective. through a different lens. And then he changes from operating out of Midas Hadin to Midas Harachamim, from the strict from a mode of strict justice to having mercy. And when does this happen? Obviously, B'chodesh HaShavi, in the 7th month, which is the month of Tishrei. And the Targum explains, Rashi writes, that, well, we'll leave Rashi aside for the moment, but Rabbi Levi, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says, that Rabbi Levi says that what kind of a shofar are you supposed to use? What kind of a shofar are you supposed to use on Rosh Hashanah? See, technically, almost any shofar is kosher. Technically. Not the shofar that belongs to a cow or a bull, and not the shofar that belongs to possibly to an Arabian, I think the word is onyx, okay? Right? Those shofaros are not kosher, but a shofar that comes from a ram, maybe from a kudu, which is some sort of an antelope. I was looking on Amazon today to see if I could buy an antelope horn that wasn't made as a shofar, just to see if I could, melt it down and experiment with it. And I found a shofar that comes from a small antelope in South Africa, a very beautiful shofar. But I mean, it's technically probably kosher for a shofar. But yet, what kind of shofar do we use? We use a ram's horn. And why? Because the ram's horn is bent. It says the Gemara that the mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah is to use a shofar that's kefufin, which is bent over. And why is that, says the Gemara? The Gemara explains, Kama dekayas inish daite tfei mali. And Rashi explains, the more Rashi and the Ramban, the various commentaries explain, that the more that a person bends over themselves, that doesn't mean physically. Rashi says it means physically, but others say it doesn't necessarily mean physically. But the more you bend yourself over, sheyachnia libo b'tfila u'b'tshuva, that means that you, through the mode of prayer and through the mode of teshuva, of return to Hashem, the person basically takes his will and puts it aside and thinks about what is the will of Hashem. So that is the way that we, quote unquote, basically, those are the mechanics of changing Hashem's will and turning Hashem from looking at us through strict justice to looking at us with rachamim, with mercy. That's an idea. Obviously, it's a much bigger idea, something we can expand upon. But for tonight, that's a very brief idea. Something to think about as we go into Rosh Hashanah is, like, a famous question I asked this many years ago is, what are you supposed to think about during the blowing of the shofar? It takes a while. So what are you supposed to think about? And the answer is, there are many answers, but one of the answers is that, first of all, you're supposed to think about the fact that you're doing a mitzvah. But once you get past that, you're supposed to think about how the shofar is bent and how we're supposed to bend ourselves. Not necessarily literally, but figuratively speaking, we're supposed to bend ourselves towards Hashem to try to, move our antennas in that direction, I guess, I'll get pun intended, towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to become the people that we're meant to become, that we're meant to be. And that's the idea of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. When we do that, so then Hashem remembers us through Rachamim. Okay. Shmuel, how about a song? I want to thank Shmuel Braun. Shmuel Braun is over here. I'll see if I can pin him to spotlight his video. There you go. You should be able to see more clearly now. Okay. Shmuel is our chazan from the past few years. Unfortunately, because of COVID and other factors, he will not be returning this year. It's very difficult to bring someone in from New York this year, but we are thrilled that he's joining us tonight as a favor to the shul. Thank you so much, Shmuel. And the way Zoom works is, when he sings, if we try to sing along without being muted, it'll sound like chaos. So I ask you to sing along at the top of your lungs while you are muted. Okay? All right, Shmuel, take it away.
Avi yosim el har kodeshi vesimachtim beis tefilasi oloi seihem zimcheihem Ratzon al mizbechi ki vesi veis tefillah ikarei lechol ha'amim v'aviu isim el har kodeshi ושימחתם בבייס תפילתי ואבי יוסים אל הר קודשי ושימחתם בבייס תפילתי אוי אוי סייהם וזמחיהם Ratzon al mizbechi ki vesi beis tefillah yikarei lechol ha'amim oy 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 ki vesi veis tefillah yikarei lechol ha'amim.
Thank you, Rabbi Shmuel. And let me go ahead and translate the words, everybody. And actually, it's a beautiful tie-in to the next idea that I want to say. So as we say, let me take you off the spotlight here. Cancel spotlight video. Okay. I will, Andy. That's a fantastic idea, and hopefully, I can do that easily next time around. Okay. So. This is a pasuk that we say a lot, actually on Yom Kippur, more than on Rosh Hashanah. We're asking Hashem to bring us to my holy mountain. And I ask the Jewish people to rejoice and to be happy in the house of prayer, which of course is a reference to the Beit HaMikdash. Means there are various types of sacrifices. Will be l'ratzon, which basically means Hashem's in find favor in Hashem's eyes. On God's altar. God's home is a home for prayer for everybody. Really, it's a universal pasuk, actually. So it actually is a beautiful segue to the next idea I wanted to share. After my next idea, Rabbi Shmuel will sing another song, and then we're going to ask Olivia to share some words of inspiration as well. And we're so thrilled that you're here to join us. Thank you for coming. So in the Maftir for Rosh Hashanah in Parshas Pinchas, we read, it says in the 7th month, on the first day of the month. Why is it the 7th month? Simply because the first month in the Torah is Nisan, when the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, when they left Egypt. 7 months later is the month of Tishrei, and of course the first day of Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah. And there it says it should be a holiday for you. And then it says a very unusual pasuk. Va'asitem ola l'reach nichoach l'Hashem. And I want you to do an ola. An ola is a burnt offering. L'reach nichoach, it should be pleasant for Hashem, pleasant for God. Now, what's very unusual about the pasuk is that this passage found in Numbers 29, verse 1 and 2. This passage is actually found where? And amongst all the other maftirs, amongst all the other korbanos of Musafin, I should say, also maftirs, but amongst all the other Musafin found, holiday of Yom Kippurim, the holiday of Sukkot, the holiday of Shavuot and Pesach, and every time there, the pasuk says a little bit differently. It says, "V'ikravtem ola," you should bring close the carbon ola. What does it mean to bring close? It means to offer. Bring as an offering. So why on Rosh Hashanah does it say "Va'asitem ola," that you should make for yourselves an ola? Actually, if you translate it literally, "Va'asitem ola," and you should make an ola. And the Yerushalmi writes something fascinating, which I came across this week. The Yerushalmi writes, Amar Lana Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem is telling the Jewish people, Mekevan shenechnastem ledin lefanai b'Rosh Hashanah, since you came in front of me, into court, to be judged on Rosh Hashanah, v'yatzatem b'shalom, and you went out in peace, as we just discussed earlier. What does that mean you went out in peace? It means that Hashem started using his rachamim. We activated God's mercy. Mal ane alechem, ki'ilu nivreitem berech hadasha. I consider it as if you have been created anew. In other words, you are a brand new creation. That means the you that exists after Rosh Hashanah is a different you that existed prior to Rosh Hashanah. And why is that? Because we went through din, we went through judgment. And by going through judgment, we're recreating ourselves. And God decides on Rosh Hashanah that, look, these are people I'm invested in, these are people I want to have a relationship with. We say Avinu Malkeinu, maybe we'll sing Avinu Malkeinu next. Okay, I think everyone is more familiar with the word Avinu Malkeinu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu basically is saying that you've made yourselves anew. So it's almost akin to offering yourself up on the Mizbeach, to bring yourself to Hashem, to say, look, here I am. And then Hashem says, I take you as you are, and I'm going to recreate you anew. A phoenix-like, if you will. We make ourselves into a korban olah, if you will, to a burnt offering, so to say, and we're recreated anew. And there's a tremendous simcha associated with that. Of course, that's why the holiday Sukkot follows Yom Kippurim, but that's something that we'll talk about then. Okay, Shmuel, how about you take it away, Avinu Malkeinu? And this one should be a little bit easier, and I will do what I can to share the words as well.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu va'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu va'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu va'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu va'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshiyenu. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshiyenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu va'aneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaneinu va'aneinu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד והושיענו. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד. עשה עמנו צדקה וחסד והושיענו.
Thank you so much, Shmuel. You sing so beautifully. The way Shmuel speaks, the way he sings, such benachas. He just speaks in such a pleasant, beautiful way. It's just, I'm really going to miss you this year. I got to tell you. Really, really, really going to miss you. Okay, not just me. Simi's coming. He's like so disappointed you're not coming. Okay, look, Chaval Davin, you come back some other time soon, hopefully. Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Vanenu. We ask Hashem to be gracious, to respond to us. Maybe we don't deserve for Him to pay any attention to us. And we ask Hashem, just be righteous, just be kind. Hoshienu, and save us. And this song is, for some reason, very, very popular. I don't know where it started or who wrote it. I have no idea. I know that there's another one that David Horwath loves, but it's actually different words, to Avinu Malkeinu, which is also very, very popular. Okay, so I want to just mention one thing before Olivia begins. I just want to mention one quick thing, which is that Bye, Zingorios, nice to see you. Thanks for coming. Okay. I want to mention one thing, which it's just, I don't know. First of all, Olivia, you don't know this, but I've been playing a lot of baseball this summer. Meish, your grandson Meish, plays with me. A bunch of his uncles are playing. Shmuel and his brother. Yeah, so I'm getting to know some of the extended family. Obviously, I know your son who lives in Florida, right? I think he and I were in school together. Okay. Anyway, so it's one of the nicest things for me personally about living in Westwood. There are a lot of very nice and wonderful things about living in Westwood. I think that anybody who wants to live anywhere else is crazy. I know you're going to quote me one day. I know you are. Okay, but the Gemara says a person only sins if some sort of craziness enters them, right? So okay, but what I want to say is that getting to know Schwartzy, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. How long did I have together with him? 2 years, 3 years, whatever it was. Thanks to Myrna and to Herb especially for really being the catalyst for the relationship. It was just so special. It was just so special. Not just having him in shul and speaking. Of course, all that was nice. But the personal kesher, the personal relationship, I would go over there and I would schmooze with him and I would bring my kids swimming there and we would hang out. It was just so extraordinary that I got to have that opportunity, and I'm so grateful. Obviously, the Schwartzy wasn't Schwartzy without Olivia. She's one of the most remarkable people that you all know her better than I do, but just one of the most remarkable people you'll ever meet. And it's just so inspiring and so wonderful and so awesome. I'm so happy that you joined us. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience. And I'm going to go. I tried to unmute you, but you may have to unmute yourself as well. Okay. There you go.
I did.
Okay.
Okay, Rabbi Stewart, thank you so much. And Myrna, she at the last minute sent me a text. I went, wow. So I just want to say, Westwood Kehilla is very, very dear to my husband's heart. And you know how sometimes when a new shul will come into a community and people are not so happy, they're a little cranky about it. But my husband was joyous at the beginning, and there was not a Shabbos from the day that the shul started that he didn't support it, and always, maybe they had the good kiddush, I don't know, but he always was part of the community, and there's so many people here that were really important to us, and I just love coming, and I know I don't come enough, but now I'm not going anywhere really, and thank you very much for playing sports with my grandchildren. It's their be all and end all in life. I just want to say one thing. My kids were once on a sport team, my son Beryl, and the coach was not somebody from the observant community. And when we came, he said to my husband, like very begrudgingly, your son is like a natural born athlete, thinking it would bother him. And my son said, that's right, like his 6 brothers before him. So rabbis and sports and honoring that part of a child's soul that is the place you really connect. I really want to thank you, because to have a role model that's a rabbi and that cares about what the kids care for is really important. So I'll just share a few like scattered thoughts about Rosh Hashanah. A few Hasidic thoughts, being that's my favorite thing to do. So we know that from the Arizal that Erev Rosh Hashanah, there's a light that existed in the world that has been in the world since last Rosh Hashanah, and that light ascends on Erev Rosh Hashanah. It starts on Erev Rosh Hashanah, and the night of Rosh Hashanah, it ascends, and it's drawn back down, not the same light, but a new light, a new holy light comes into the world when the shofar is blown on Yontif. And the whole, and there's so many parts to Rosh Hashanah. There's the parts of coronating God King, there's the part of the remembrances, the part of the shofar. But I always was fascinated because, as you know, our services always were for the non-religious people that maybe would come to shul only on Rosh Hashanah and have that connection. And it always fascinated me that they were so drawn, because it is the coronation of the king, and what do we say about the coronation of the king is that if the king doesn't have any subjects, who you're going to be a king over. So it's very important we're always there to be the subjects of the king. And at that moment, every Jew's heart really wants to be a subject of the king. They want to be at the coronation. And it was always very moving to me, to see that and to be there. And we kind of have to now pick up the banner for many, many people. We have to kind of triple that energy in the world, because so many people will not be able to be in a synagogue and have that once a year experience of making that deep connection. Because what is God really asking us to do by drawing him into the world and coronating him king is to make a dira b'tachtonim, a dwelling place for God here in this physical world. And it's a new opportunity. Every year is renewal, and it's a new opportunity. And one of the things that we say, and in our family, we always had this phrase, Rosh Hashanah is the head of the year. And what do we know about the head? As the head goes, so the body goes. So as what you put into Rosh Hashanah and how you spend the day of Rosh Hashanah. In many years, we used to be in hotels. And so, we make everybody stay up. Nobody sleeps on Rosh Hashanah. You don't want to have a sleepy year. So we, chase the kids around the hotel or whatever it was to keep up. So you want to set the tone of how you want your year to go on Rosh Hashanah. It's really, really important. And it's considered one long day, one extended day. So today, it's very interesting because in the times that we're in, we're not socializing so much. A lot of people spent a lot of their Rosh Hashanah going from house to house, having desserts, tasting this and that. And this year, that's not really happening a lot. So the more one can say Psalms, more one can learn things, more one can say sweet words to each other. It's fulfilling a different purpose. It's setting a tone for the year. And I want to share a teaching from Rabbi Yitzhak Ginsburg, and I'm going to share it in its simplest form. It was very convoluted and Kabbalistic, but I want to share just the essence of it. So, I was thinking this year, a lot of people will come to shul, not Westwood Kehilla, but a lot of people will come to our small outdoor backyard service, and they go, what? No shofar? Because people don't know that you don't blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah. So Rabbi Ginsburg was teaching, that Shabbos is a container, is a vessel to hold all the blessings that we would normally receive from the blowing of the shofar. And how do we know that? We know it because Lishmoa Kol Shofar and Lekavod Shabbos Kodesh are each made up of 3 letters, and they're the same 3 letters. And so that's the connection between Shabbos and the shofar. And how do we draw down the shofar on Shabbos? It's by having Oneg Shabbos. And so he was saying like that the foods we eat, L'kavod Shabbos Kodesh, and the clothes we wear, L'kavod Shabbos Kodesh, and the Oneg, the pleasure that we have on Shabbos will be that vessel that will draw down and contain all those blessings that normally we would have through the receiving of the shofar. And in my own personal preparation, I just want to really encourage everybody to look at the Machzor before you get to Rosh Hashanah, because I know like every year, like you open that Machzor and you think, oh my gosh, I wish I had read this before. I wish I had looked at it before, become familiar with it, make it your own, be able to pause on those prayers that are speaking to your heart and soul, because it will be a different experience than if you just open the book and you just start, like look at it, look at the things that speak to you, look at the things that you love and that's important. And we know that also the shofar, when the shofar is blown, or when we're participating in that drawing down on Shabbos, and also Sunday, we do have the opportunity to hear the shofar, that one of the things that the blasts of the shofar do is it eliminates evil and it brings good into the world. So we want to put ourselves in this position that we're receptacles for the good, and also kindness, loving kindness to each other, that we don't have to have mystical kavanas, and when you don't, have to have the deepest of thoughts, but we have to be the receiver, to have Ahavas Yisrael, to have kindness and love. And I want to take 2 more minutes, and I just want to share a story that I'm actually going to share in one of my classes. And somehow it doesn't say Rosh Hashanah in it, but I think it has such a resonance to Rosh Hashanah. And it is a true story, and I heard it from one of the rabbis in Florida. So there were 2 that sent these boys. So in the summers, a lot of Chabad kids go all over the world. I can tell you millions of fascinating stories that my kids have had, to different communities. And there were 2 boys that were traveling through Florida, and they were going to small communities, making, a few days of summer camp, maybe checking mezuzahs, et cetera, et cetera. And they came to they had to fill up their car, and they came to a gas station in Jacksonville, I think it's called, Florida. And they're filling up their gas, and the person comes out, the attendant comes out, and he's staring at them. And he says, he goes back inside, and he comes out again, and he says, would you come with me, please, into the office, into the back room office? And they're a little nervous, they're in Jacksonville, Florida, they're, the Bible Belt, they're a little nervous, but they go. And they think, okay, what's going on? And inside is this old man, a very old man. And he looks at them, and he starts weeping and weeping and weeping. And his sons are telling him the story that their father showed him pictures of what Hasidim look like, and said, if you ever see anyone that looks like this, bring them to me. And what was the story is that he was a Holocaust survivor from a big dynasty. And after the Holocaust, he came to America, and he did not want to have anything more to do with Judaism, absolutely nothing. And he moved as far away as he could from a center of Judaism. He moved to Jacksonville, Florida. He married a non-Jewish woman. He had 3 sons, and he never ever said that he was Jewish. His family had no idea. His sons grew, his wife passed away, and he was an old man, and old people sometimes can't sleep. And he was watching television, and it was about maybe 40 years ago when the Lubavitcher Rebbe, they used to have Farbrengens that were on TV. And he understood Yiddish, from when Yiddish was his first tongue. And the Rebbe was speaking in Yiddish, and the Rebbe was saying that No Jew, no matter how far away they are, no matter where they have roamed in the world, no matter how much they have left and know nothing about their Judaism, you are like a kidnapped child. We will find you. We will come for you, and we will find you. And his son said after he saw the Rebbe talking, he called his whole family in and he told them that he had been a Jew, and they didn't know what that meant really. And he showed them pictures of Hasidim, and he said, one day they will come for me. And if you see them, bring them to me. And that's the story. And they brought him matzah, and when he passed away, he had a Jewish funeral. And it reminds me, it says that when Mashiach comes, he's going to blow that shofar gadol, that big shofar from the horn of the ram that Avram sacrificed instead of Isaac. And it says, what is that shofar going to do? It's going to bring in Jews from every corner of the world, all the exiles from every corner of the world. And we are going to be assistants. We are going to be the assistants. So I just want to encourage everybody to not only include ourselves in the preparation, but if you have any neighbors, ask the ladies to light Shabbos candles. If like Myrna's having shofar on the porch or something like that, send everybody over, let's try this year to bring in all those exiles and the exiles that are in ourselves in particular, to bring ourselves to the level that this Rosh Hashanah will be new, and we need to approach it full of joy, because what do we know is that Simcha has the ability to chase away darkness, and that even though we are in a very different situation this year, I have never had time to pray for myself. This is going to be such a unique experience. I've always been guiding other people, that really we should merit immediately to see Mashiach, and we should do it with love and kindness and joy and blessings for good health and a very sweet year for everybody.
Amen. Thank you so much. Wow, so beautiful. In fact, you stole the show there, but actually you said something that I actually really wanted to say, which is we're not going to be spending a lot of time in shul this year, and we're not going to be singing lots of songs this year, unfortunately. But the idea of taking out the machzor and looking at it beforehand, I mean, Barry's been begging me to give a talk or a class. Hopefully we'll have a chance for that. But even without a chance for that, just sitting down with an article machzor, if you don't have one at home, come to the shul, take one. We've got 400 machzorim there. I'm sure we can manage. Eventually you'll return it, okay? If not, it'll be my gift to you. Not that I own the machzor or anything like that, but the idea is that take a look at the machzor. If you have your own, highlight it, take notes, mark it up, just look at it, and it'll change your Rosh Hashanah. It'll change everything. And like what happens on Rosh Hashanah, sometimes, right, you could daven in English, some things, sure, but having that foreknowledge of what it's about and reading the notes on the bottom, and as opposed to like being under pressure, do you have to daven with the tzibor, you have to be with the community, and you're waiting for kedusha, and what's everyone else up to? Forget all that. Just take a look, take a few minutes every day, and it'll change your Rosh Hashanah. And I thank you for that idea. Actually, I was going to mention that one as well, but I think it's so important. I want to end this program with one song. You're familiar with the tune to the words L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. Everyone knows that tune and everyone knows those words. Shmuel is going to sing it with different words, with words that you might, with words that you may or may not know. It's from the Rosh Hashanah davening, and I'll tell you what page it's on in the machzor. If you happen to have a machzor handy, it's on page 494. I'll give you a moment to find the machzor. It's on page 494 in the machzor, and it's wonderful. I know some of you are very busy with the al-chaitz. I think that's great. Spend some time on some of the other things too. The liturgy really speaks to the truth about what the holiday is really all about. And certainly on Rosh Hashanah, the liturgy is really about Malchus, like Olivia shared, and so important. Okay, so here are the words, a lot of words. He's not going to sing all of them. The famous ones are the ones on the bottom, V'yitnu l'cha keser malucha. The last line are the famous ones. But we do sing this, and we have sung this in shul for the last number of years. and it should be familiar to you. At least the tune will be familiar to you. If you want to look in the article master, page 494, 495, the last paragraph, or of course I have the words here for you as well. And thank you to Andy for all your wonderful suggestions. This makes it easier for sure. Okay, go ahead, Shmuel.
Shem kvodecha v'yagidu ba'im tzidkecha v'yidrashucha amin lo yidaucha.
Thank you very, very much, Reb Shmuel. Reb Shmuel comes to us all the way from New York, where it's not 8:30, but 11:30. So thank you very, very, very much, Reb Shmuel. So wonderful to have you. And Yasher Koach, I see that. Some people even know how to use their reaction buttons over there to clap for you. And it's just so, so spectacular, so special. And we're so, so thrilled that you joined us. Again, thank you so much to Olivia. Thank you to everybody. And really, I think the takeaway message is this. Things are different. Let's roll with it. Let's make it as good as we possibly can. It's going to be wonderful. It all depends on us. And Mirz Hashem, everybody should have a chsiva v'chasima tova, ktiva v'chatima tova. Everybody should be written and sealed in the book for tov. We've had many challenges this year as a community, as individuals, as a Jewish people, as Americans, as humans. We've had our challenges this year. And no one, there was a great video. You know what? I'm going to see if I could find it before I let you go, because if I can find it quickly, I think it's worthwhile to share, at least to end off on a humorous note here. Everybody remembers Ashley Blaker. Everybody remembers him, right? Who's Ashley Blaker? He's the comedian who came to do a thing for the shul, and then he also did a show for us as well. He did a show for us as well through Zoom, and he shared a cute little video that I'll share with you, because why not? If you've got the patience to stay for 3 more minutes, I'll share it with you. Once again, thank you to everybody for coming. If anybody signs off now, I won't be insulted. And here we go. Let's see, Ashley Blaker. I'm almost done. Hold on 1 second. Let's see, I had it here a moment ago. Oh, here we go. Let's see if I can share this with you in a way that you can actually hear it. You should be able to see it now. And it's only 1 minute and 39 seconds. Here we go.
How many will leave their house? And how many will self-quarantine? Who will be furloughed? And who will have to get dressed for work again? Whose hair will be cut at its predestined time? And whose months after its predestined time? Who by Zoom and who by Skype? Who by 2 meters and who by 1 meter? Who by teacher assessment and who by algorithm? Who by swallowing detergent and who by injecting detergent? Who will get a delivery slot and who will have to go to the supermarket in person? Who will have a plentiful supply of toilet paper? And who will need to be careful with every sheet? Who will suffer homeschooling? And who will be rid of their children? Who will pile on the lockdown pounds? And who will be in denial and not weigh themselves? But hand washing, mask wearing, and social distancing.
Okay, so on that pretty funny note, I don't know what the dish detergent or wash, I have no idea what that one is about. Maybe somebody could fill me in. But other than that, I think I understood most of it. And I just, hold on 1 second, I gotta turn that on.
I'm the beneficiary of all.
Sorry, not that, okay. Anyways, I wish you all, yeah, no, I thought that was pretty good too. Very clever and okay, so anyways, I want to wish you all really a wonderful Chag Sameach, a Kosher v'Sameach, a Chesiva v'Chesima Tova, a good Gebench Yoreh, they say, and a year of Shalom, a year of health, a year of social connection and being together, you know, being together in shul in person in Mir Hashem, hopefully sometime soon. And I look forward to seeing you on Rosh Hashanah, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, Kol Tov, and wish everybody a good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Beautiful.
Thank you.